So hey, yeah, thanks for having us. My name is Richard, and it's great to be here with Jazz, and we get to talk about something that is so important, and it's perfect on the Charlie Mike program. It's definitely a topic they understand and they care about. Really quickly, I started getting into trying to understand what it meant to, well, I guess, care for somebody else. Um, 7 years ago, my dad had Alzheimer's, and for the last 7 years, I've been flying back and forth from New York to California. And along the way, a lot of things have happened. And then I call myself like I guess when it comes to caregiving, I'm kind of like the 7-year-old caregiver because I'm only 7 years in and I have a lot to learn. And you are in the space too, in many different ways as well, right?
Yeah, I was in the Army for 17 years. I am now a disabled veteran. My husband, also being a Marine Corps veteran, is my caregiver. I've had spinal fusion surgery. I had both of my knees replaced. And I also am getting treated for major depressive disorder right now. And I also have a nonprofit who helps women veterans who are going through similar situations. So I'm kind of on both sides of the spectrum. But I definitely understand the magnitude of what you experience being a caregiver and also being one who receives the care. It's the same thing in military where we talk about, buddy checks, check on your buddy. I mean, you having a bit of a challenge because your dad is, at a distance. But when the call needs to be answered, what do? You get up and you do what's need to be done
Yeah,
for those that you love and for those that need you. And I think that's the message our country as a whole,
yeah.
can adopt, especially divisive times. But hopefully that will be changing soon.
Yeah, I know. So a final salute and your journey that you and I, we have similar journeys in terms of why, I guess, in the stuff that we choose to do, like in our works, right? In our works, we try to be back in that space. My my time with my dad has wanted me to do a film on caregiving and to write on caregiving and report on caregiving and be a part of the community to the best of my ability as I go through it personally, as well as for other caregivers and as well as caregiver recipients. And with you with Final Salute, I guess your journey also brought you to create Final Salute.
Right. So I was a previously homeless woman veteran due to Hurricane Katrina and a cancer diagnosis that left me unable to deploy to Iraq in 2005. So that let my auntie having to be my caregiver due to the lack of supportive services for women veterans. And I also was a mother at the time, so it wasn't just she was caring for me, she was also caring for my son. And I think some people forget about the, second and third order effects. So caregiving
Yep.
isn't just the person. The caregiving could be their bills. The caregiving could be their medication. The caregiving could be housekeeping, making their meals, helping them get to the bathroom, bathing them. For a lot of people, they think on the surface, oh, you just sit with them and make sure they're okay. In some instances, you have to be their everything in order for them to have quality of life, basically.
And that, I think another overlap between the two of us is so my documentary was following young caregivers, those who were like 12 all the way up to 26,
Wow.
caring for family, their parents, their grandparents. And when you mentioned you have one or two children.
I have two. I have a 25-year-old and a 10-year-old. Yeah, so the second one, that was a self-imposed wound. But my 25-year-old, he's in the Air Force. He's actually on a deployment right now. So
Mhm.
he's 25, and I have a 10-year-old that's here, and he's in the fifth grade. And when you talk about caregiving, there are a lot of us that are homeschooling right now, and that brings a lot of more challenges when you're again receiving caregiver support, but you're still expected to function as a parent. So
Yeah.
there's just so many dynamics that are just out there that people didn't even consider.
What was it? I mean, your 25-year-old. Um, so he, right?
Yes.
He was part of the caregiving giving, like he was the caregiver, I guess, in a way throughout that time. What was it like for him? Have you talked to him about it after?
Well, he just thought we stay with my aunt. Like I never really, because he was young, I never really talked about my depression and the cancer and things with him because, as a
Mm,
parent, you try to shield your children um from stress and from sadness and sorrow. And so every day he got up and he was just motivated and he would always
mm,
come to me and say, "Mom, today's gonna be a better day." And
mm.
so, even though he couldn't physically do anything for me, emotional support,
Oh,
mental
yeah.
support is caregiving as well, just
Yeah.
a nice gesture. So people
Right.
think of it as, all being physical. And I'm like, there's just
Yep.
so much, caregiving involved that it just comes to just words and emotion and just showing someone that you're caring, you're there
Oh,
for them.
yes. Yeah. I mean, in jazz,
Mhm.
I can't tell you because I had to argue the documentary that I was working on was I was saying they are caregiving. They don't use the word. They don't know that they're doing it, but they are taking care of their parent, their grandparent, and it's through the little things that
Mhm.
we're not going to put a label on it that equals caregiving. But your son, when he was younger, he was caregiving. He didn't know it, right? He's not going to say.
Right.
If you ask him right now, he would probably say, "What do you mean, mom? I was just being a kid. I loved you. You're my mom. Of course I'm going to
Right.
do that. What do you mean I was stepping up or doing something different?" But I know that you probably would say, "Oh no, um, that will always be special."
Yeah, definitely. Because, had it not been for him, there's no telling where I would have ended up. But he was definitely, in his own way, giving me a motivational speech every morning before he went off to school. "Mom, today's going to be a better day." And I'm like, you know what? It damn sure is going to be a better day. And yeah, unfortunately, some people don't have children or spouses. And had I not had him, I would have been through it alone. But like caregiving, point blank, it saves lives and it
Yeah.
prolongs life.
What's his name?
His name is Brandon.
And Brandon, did is he just natural? He sensed things, you think, and then he just reached out because obviously he loved you and he cared about you, and he said it's going to be a better day. Like, was it? What do you think keyed him off to say that? Just who he was as a joyful person, if you will.
Well, I think that my teachings from him from very early about overcoming obstacles and about, support I gave him when he was little, in days when he was sad or he got a
Mm,
bad grade. I would say the same thing. You know what? You got a
mm,
bad grade this time, but you know what? We're going to study really hard. The next time you're going to get 100 on that spelling test. It's going to be a better day. And when you teach your kids those things early, it resonates with them. So they basically repeat things,
yeah,
but I also think, just like with your dad and with my kid, they can sense certain things. Like,
yeah.
and also we and our parents, we can sense when things are off with our kids, things are off with our parents, when even things are off with our spouse. "Hey, babe, do you need a hug? Do you need a beer?"
All sorts
When
of
you're,
things. Yeah.
yeah,
And so when you started Final Salute, how did that? What was that like to start it? What was sort of like? Was it it's sort of like these big ideas, and then you do some work, and the big idea, and you get some, because but the work stuff is the tough stuff. But tell me about how Final Salute started.
Well, when I first looked at homelessness among women veterans, I had thought of my situation as something that was isolated. But as the years went by and I started to do more research, and I would see that nothing's getting better in the way of supportive services in an arena, I often think about how most people say, you know what, somebody's going to do something about that. Somebody's going to step up. And I'm like, you know what, they don't have the time to wait for somebody. That somebody's going to be me. As a soldier, if you can't get over a bridge, I'm sorry, you can't get over a body water, you build a bridge. You don't just turn around and go back and say, you know what, I'll come back in 5 days. Maybe somebody else will have built that bridge. And so I thought that that will be my next mission. And I just went at it 110% and um, gained so much support, a lot of publicity because nobody was really talking about homelessness by women veterans, not even the VA nor HUD. So sometimes you even have to teach the government to do their job in some aspects. And I was more than willing to provide that knowledge to them.
Yeah, and the one of the things as a journalist, Jazz, that made me, and still does make me, and I mean sad in an active way, sad and an energized way. Like you need to talk about it more. You need to be part of a productive conversation. And there's different statistics, and correct me, please, but every night in America, a third of those who are homeless to some degree are a veteran or served our country.
Yeah,
And
and yeah, I'm sorry,
you
but
know that. Don't apologize. That is striking, maddening, uh, energizing, as I was saying, because I'm a kind of person that I've got to run. My dad was a social worker. My mom was a school teacher. You got to run towards the fire, and I mean that's what you did, and having lived through difficult times too.
yeah, definitely. And when you talk about how many veterans are homeless, that's why I tend to stay out of politics and political conversations concerning kneeling and the national anthem. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah,
These same people who are talking about kneeling in the national
right.
anthem are walking past veterans on their way to the stadium who are standing outside, panhandling. And so, we're often used for political fodder, but for the fact that there are so many veterans that are homeless, it is a national disgrace. These are the people who, when I was in uniform, I would tell you, we got invites to all types of games and come sit in our suite. And when they pan to you with your uniform, make sure you wave so they can see that we're doing our part. And then when you get out of the military and you need a job, that uniform you're not wearing it anymore, you become like everyone else. I mean, you're not special anymore. And so you go into the same, struggles as every other American who needs work, support, mental health services and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that veterans need to be put before anyone else in need. But when you have an administration that is solely for your benefit and purpose that's failing you, that is a problem.
And what do you think works? I mean, as you've worked with Final Salute, one of the families that I worked on for the documentary, you might have heard of them, New Directions out of Southern California. It's a veterans choir. New
Oh,
Directions,
nice.
yeah, and they were on America's Got Talent. And George met his wife because she was also homeless, formerly homeless. He's a veteran. They were
Mm.
on the streets together. She got clean and got better. She came back and got him. They ended up getting married. This is over
Wow.
like 10 years on Skid Row in LA.
Wow.
And New Directions is one of those programs like yours, Final Salute, that works towards things that work most times, right? Because we never can get 100%,
Right.
but so long as we get 50 or 60, like that's good. What works?
I think what works is treating everyone who comes to similar programs with dignity and respect. For some women who have come through our transitional home, they talk about the institutional feeling that they get when they go to shelters, like
Yeah,
having curfew, being told what you're going to
yeah,
eat for dinner. They're not in prison, and so it's not a one size fit all or cookie cutter situation when it comes to helping anyone. But I
yeah,
tell people we need to stop looking for veteran solutions and look at solutions um, as Americans as a whole. We often look at veterans, it's like, oh, what do we do with them? And I'm just like, before I was a veteran, I was an American and I'm always going to be an American after that.
that's
So
right.
it's just like stop trying to create programs, for isms or pet the vet events that I
I
like
get you.
really hate that. So it's just like treat us,
Yeah,
with humanity, dignity, and respect. That's
yeah,
how we respond to you. But if you treat us like charity cases or birds with broken wings, it's just going to cause us to further spiral because we are people who have served with dignity and pride and do
yes,
not
yes,
want you to lick our wounds. We want you to help us heal.
right. Yeah, man, that is so difficult to express, but I understand academically because talking with these families, like yes, they have lived through homelessness as families, military families. They have lived through difficulties of wanting to take their own lives. They have lived through difficulties of divorce, and you can name it. But you know what? That's also, and look, I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, but what I learned was that, yeah, I am a veteran. I am a military family. I come from a military family. But that's not the only thing I am. I
Right.
am also American. I am also uh, Asian American, African American. I'm also female, male, whatever the case may be. I'm all of these things, and I think, and I fall into that too, Jazz, as a journalist, sometimes just wanting to say, this is that story, and that's that story, and that's that story. So don't get mad at me, but I empathetically understand, but I'm learning, you know what I mean, about what you just expressed.
Yeah, and yeah, and often we're put in a box, and I think for some people, that's their comfort zone. It's easier to look at me as just a veteran as opposed to, no, she's not just a veteran, she's a mom. She's a wife. She has all these other traditional, female titles and roles, and none of that is a race because she raised her right hand. So when we're trying to serve veterans, we also need to look at, like you said, the caregiving component of it.
Yeah.
What does he or she need, but also what does his or her spouse need? What does his or her child need? So it's not just a focus that's so on the veteran and their service, because our family are a part of our healing and they're part of our transition, beyond the difficulties that we're having.
So, I mean, you get asked this, and I do too. So then, based on what you just said, Jazz, who are you?
I am Jazz Booth. I am a mom. I am a wife. I am a Black woman. I am a force of nature, but I am also an activist, a problem solver, and a force to be reckoned with.
and, and an entrepreneur, and a founder, and a president, and a speaker, and yeah, I was the reason why I asked that, Jazz, because I was thinking to myself, you're starting, you decide to start something, and that takes so much. You started many things in your life. A military career is not something to certainly not think of as large as starting an organization as you have. But how do you describe that as being an entrepreneur,
Well, I will tell
creating
you
this
that
organization? Yeah.
it's harder to start. Well, I'm sorry. It's easier to start something and it's harder to ignore it, because when you ignore it, it if you have a moral compass, it continues to eat at you. Because
Mm.
when you don't become a part of the solution or you don't bring it to anybody's attention and you know about it, it's just like, when people see fights and things, and the first thing they do instead of intervening, I'm going to pull out my camera, and
Mm.
it goes like horribly wrong. And you think about, what if I had broken up that fight, or what if I had a de-escalated the situation? So I never wanted to live in what if I didn't start that organization? What if I didn't, call attention to, the plight of women veterans who are homeless, especially with children? And when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's the same thing. I use my voice. I'm a public speaker, and I tell people they don't really see um, I guess the impact of public speaking, but you have to look at the impact of words. When you look at certain politicians, their words have impact, and sometimes it can cause people to act positively, or it can cause people to act negatively. And so with me, I am very careful with my words, but I also realize the impact of them. And so for me, you can bring people through great depths. Like I talked about, hey mom, today's going to be a better day. Saying that to an audience full of people who feeling like, it's hard to begin again, or that their life is over. I had a girl that came on I'm sorry, not a girl. I'm 43 now, so I'm feeling like an old lady. So everybody's a girl
Oh,
to me
come
now
on.
that's under 40. But she was a full
We're not.
grown woman,
I know. Yeah.
and she said, I thought I would spend my life helping children, but now I'm just a substitute teacher. And I said, you never say you are just
Thank you.
anything.
Thank you.
You are never just anything. And I tell her that's the power of words. And that's what I
Yeah.
use as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. No, yeah, I snapping fingers on don't say just, especially if you're a woman. I am just, or I
Mhm.
am sorry. Do not apologize. You are not just. You are exactly who you are. And there's no excuse for what you're about to say because those are your words. I agree with you. To round it out, Jazz. I mean, I was looking at your website. The first thing folks see is soldier, Marine, airman, and trainee.
My family.
Yeah, what are they? This is not, these are tough times in many, many different ways. But let's flip it on the other side, because that's the way you and I are here. What have they said that inspires you? Because we're living through an economic pandemic. We're living through a viral pandemic, and we're living through a racial pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
What do they tell? What does the Marine say? What does the airman say? What does the trainee say to you today when you're at home? Your husband, your older son, your younger son say to you that keeps you going?
Family comes first. We take care of each other, whether we're, close, whether we're apart. We always check on each other. Even though I'm married to a Marine and my son is an airman, they're my battle buddies. And my little one, we all check on each other. We make sure everyone is okay. But, even though people don't understand that even though you're in close proximity, you can still feel miles apart
Mm.
if you're not connecting. So every day I get up and I go to Starbucks and I get me and my husband coffee. Even within your restrictions, you can still develop a routine. So we keep our routines going, telling someone you love them on a daily basis, sending them a text. We continue to build a strength within our family, regardless of where we are, because at the end of the day, if you only have family and you don't have friends, you want to make sure that they're okay. But even though, like my son, he right now doesn't technically have a caregiver, I still give him care because he is my son. The same to my husband and my youngest. So people think in care again, they think very narrowly about caregiving, and it's such a broad spectrum of what you can do and how it relates to people. And so for us, we make sure that we are all okay all the time.
Yeah. I say care heroes is what I say, because you remember back in your times and the years, they're care heroes,
Yeah.
and we are living through it right now. Jazz, was great hanging, and we got to do this 12 months. I'm really excited about what you're doing for women women veterans that are living through a period of homelessness, because we already talked about it, and there's all sorts of layers. That's a whole 1 hour conversation, right?
Right.
You and I would do a lot of listening and learning, but there's a lot of diving into what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a
Definitely.
veteran, and what
Yeah.
it means to be homeless on top of that.
Definitely. I don't know why I'm trying to record this. I was trying to snap a picture. But no, it is. Like I said, you have to dissect all those layers, but you also have to be attentive to all those layers and not put people in a box. I mean, even
Yeah,
you talked about your Asian American heritage. There are
yeah.
probably certain other things that goes along with that. I also hope you
Oh yeah.
appreciate this. I make my own miso soup. Um,
Well,
um,
you're one on top. You're one up on me then.
like I have low iron, and that's the only thing that I can really stomach. That really with the spinach and the seaweed and the tofu, that I actually like the taste of it, and I could put a bunch of iron in one bowl because I really don't like vegetables. But that was also very kind of quasi racist for me to assume that you ate miso soup for just a
No,
minute.
it's all right.
Rude.
What I was about to say was that when it comes to the military, that's okay. We both got. I got my yellow card. You got your black card. We're okay. I get it. So the way it works is, what I love about those who have served in the military is that they have been exposed to so many cultures.
Yeah, definitely.
And not like, ambassador. It's more like, no, I know people. I've been to those places. I've talked to people, everyday people, and that's where we learn about different places and different faces. So
Yeah, and
that's
like
okay.
me and you having that conversation, it's not like awkward or anything, but for somebody
No,
watching this, they'll be like, I can't believe she said that. This is how we roll as brothers and sisters roll. So,
it's true.
you
No,
know, but that was the great thing about me joining the military, as I had never been around Asian Americans, and a lot of Hispanic Americans and such before having that military experience. But when you put in that green uniform, it's like, hey, sister and brother, period.
correct.
And we all give each other
Absolutely.
so much. I don't know how family friendly SHIT, but we give each other a lot of it, but it's all a lot of love.
I know it, and that's what I know because I know it's an expression of affection and care. I get it. I mean, I just seeing the way the military families that I've followed, just the way they, and that's special, right? That's another one.
Definitely.
That's another 1 hour, and now Charlie and Mike are going. The Charlie and Mike show is now going. Come on, would you stop talking, Richard and Jazz?
They're like, wrap it up. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, so my final thought is, from me to you, I appreciate, you being a caregiver, but I also appreciate you documenting what actually caregiving is, the many subcategories to it, and how everyone, can be a caregiver. And but also with being a caregiving, it's like, you also have to practice self-care and take care of yourself. So, I enjoy taking care of my family. I appreciate them taking care of me, and I also appreciate what you do, and also you putting it on a bigger platform. So, from my heart to you, thank you.
Oh, Jazz, thank you so much. Yeah, it was a pleasure to show how all these different families from all these different states and regions of all ethnic backgrounds were different, but we're at the end of the day, we're all the same.
Oh, I do have one final question for you before you wrap up. What did you learn about caregiving while making Sky Blossom that surprised you?
I'm okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, my journey of caregiving, I'm 7 years in, like I said, but after watching all of these amazing, 12, like I said, the ages earlier, from the Midwest, the South, the East, the West, the Pacific Islands, Black, Latino, Native American, Asian, white American, everybody, is that I'm okay and we're okay. Like I feel, Jazz, at the end of the day, I was like looking at your trainee and your airman and going, we are okay. That was the one thing I took away from 4 years of filming and editing, is that what you did with your airman and your trainee, those are who I talk to, right? That we're okay. And there's a lot of hope in front of us. There's a lot of things that, all that stuff, right? That fuzzy stuff. I just push the fuzzy stuff away, and I'm like, this is good. This is why I called it the next greatest generation, because I really was inspired as a journalist that they are that. So that is the thing that both enlightened me, surprised me, and I wanted it to be like that. And I was so glad it was that way.
That's awesome. And if you're not okay, you will be.
That's right.